even though the rains are there for the last 3 days, the spirits are not dampened. I was thinking as I was picking up the mridanga, usually in this weather the mridanga is very damp. It's very difficult to make any sound out of it. But Krishna somehow energizes everything. So the sound of the mridanga was perfect. So Krishna's, one of the effects of Krishna is Sanjeevani. Sanjeevani means he enlivens everything. And that enlightening force is coming from Krishna. And it is very relevant for what we are discussing in this chapter of Srīmad Bhāgavatam, that Krishna is the cause of all causes. So today we are doing text 82 or chapter 5, cause of all causes, Canto 2. Please repeat. Narayanam namaskritya Naram Shaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudire Nashtakayeshva Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Naishtike Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya 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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yadaite Sangata Bhava Bhutendriya Manogunaha Yada Yatana Nirmane Nashe Kur Brahma Vittama Yadaite Sangata Bhava Bhutendriya Manogunaha Yada Yatana Nirmane Nashe Kur Brahma Vittama Yadaite Sangata Bhava Bhutendriya Manogunaha Yada Yatana Nirmane Nashe Kur Brahma Vittama
Yadaite Sangata Bhava
Yadaite Sangata Bhava
Bhutendriya Manogunaha Yada Yatana Nirmane Nashe Kur Brahma Vittama
Yadaite Sangata Bhava
Yadaite Sangata Bhava
Bhutendriya Manogunaha
Bhutendriya Manogunaha
Yada Yatana Nirmane
Yada Yatana Nirmane
Nashe Kur Brahma Vittama
Nashe Kur Brahma Vittama Yadaite Sangata Bhava Translation by His Loving Divine Grace, I see Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Please repeat. O Narada, best of the transcendentalists, the forms of the body cannot take place as long as these created parts, the elements, senses, mind, and modes of nature are not assembled. Please here. The different types of bodily construction of the living entities are exactly like different types of motor cars manufactured by assembling the allied motor parts. When the car is ready, the driver sits in the car and moves it as he desires. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 1861. The living entity is as if seated on the machine of the body, and the car of the body is moving by the control of material nature, such as the railway trains are moving under the direction of the controller. The living entities, however, are not the bodies. They are separate from the cars of the body. But the less intelligent material scientists cannot understand the process of assembling the parts of the body, namely the senses, the mind, and the qualities of material modes. Every living entity is a spiritual spark, part and parcel of the Supreme Being, and by kindness of the Lord, for the Father is kind to His sons, individual living beings are given a little freedom to act according to their will, to lord it over the material nature. Just as a father gives some playthings to the crying child to satisfy him, the whole material creation is made possible by the will of the Lord to allow the bewildered living entities to lord it over things as they desire, although under the control of agent of the Lord. The living entities are exactly like small children playing the material field under the control of the maidservant of the Lord, nature. They accept the Maya or the maidservant as all in all, and thus wrongly conceive the supreme truth to be feminine, Goddess Durga, etc. The foolish childlike materialist cannot reach beyond the conception of the maidservant, material nature, but the intelligent grown-up sons of the Lord know well that all the acts of material nature are controlled by the Lord, just as the maidservant is under the control of the master, the father of the undeveloped children. As parts of the body, such as senses are the creation of Mahatattva, and when they are assembled by the will of the Lord, the material bodies come into existence, and the living entities is allowed to use it for further activities. This is explained as follows. So the development of the bodies of the living entities is described in these verses. So it's quite scientific. So those who have been following the last 1 week of Srīmad Bhāgavatam sessions in the morning will see how the material senses and the material elements starting from ether, they are created and transformed. And in this particular verse, very nicely, Lord Brahma is explaining to Narada Muni the forms of the body. They cannot take place as long as the elements, senses, mind, and modes of nature are not assembled. And all this happens by the supreme will of the Lord. Let's do Mangalacharan, and thereafter we may try to discuss and glorify Krishna. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishnu Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kalamayam Tadati Svadadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Radhakama Shri Guru Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadhutam Parijanam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Viraja Krsna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatade Gopeshwar Gopika Kanta Kanchana Gaurani Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwahanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyayugacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bhutay Madhve Yayma Purobhu Nirmaya Shete Yadamushu Purusha Bhunte Gunan Shodasha Shodashatmaka Solan Krasishta Bhagavan Vachamsi Me Sri Krishna Sharanam Sharanagatam Katha Amritam Satatapi Visham Bhakti Vedanta Marga Bandhanam Sarvaloka Rishideva Janna Prasannam Sarvaloka Rishideva Janna Prasannam. So these verses are explaining about the creation, and in this particular verse the creation of the body is mentioned. It is very important to understand our own body and how it works. Why is it important to understand that?
So we must understand what the body is, that part of
Yes.
body is.
The foundation, spiritual knowledge, the ABC of Bhagavad Gita is we are not the body, but the spirit soul. But then why do we need to understand the body?
That's a vehicle for the soul.
Exactly. Because the soul is inside the body. It's a vehicle. As Prabhupada mentioned, the paper, yantra paradhuni mayaya. It's a yantra. Body is a yantra. Driven by the force of illusory energy. And the soul is inside the body. And therefore, it is important to understand the workings of the body and how the body is carried away by the dictation of the illusory energy of the Lord. And unless one takes reins of the body, one will be carried away exactly like the waves of the material ocean without any anchor, and end up in lower regions of the existence. So Prabhupada here in the paper reflects that the maid servant of the Lord, who is she? Durga. So Durga literally means what?
Prison.
Prison, a fort. So this material world is known as Durga. Means it's literally a prison. In prison, who are put there? Criminals. So we all have done something wrong, and that's why we are there. But within the prison house also, there are different degradations of prisoners who are put under different degradations of the securities. So those who are so-called soft criminals, they may have committed little crimes here and there, petty theft. So they are given a certain degree of freedom. But those who are hard criminals, they are put in the very tough security. They're shackled, they're bound. So similarly, we see in this material world, various living entities are bound by different degrees, depending on their previous karmas, their previous actions. So some persons would be born in so much poverty, there's hardly any freedom to do anything except just work. In India and many of the third countries, you see, it's normal for people to work 14, 16 hours a week. And so where is the freedom? The freedom does not exist. And therefore, the materialists we see in India, especially the worship of demigoddess Durga is very prevalent in the north side especially, also in the south, also in the Bengal region, Kali Mata worship is very prevalent, which is just another form of Durga Devi. So the people approach her to Dhanam Devi, Yoganam Devi, all this they desire. So it is like approaching the superintendent of the prison and asking, I'm in the prison, give me some facility. At the moment, I am locked up in the third class prison, so make it a second class prison, where I can have some more freedom, some more movement, I can have some more food to eat. Like that, so people wrongly think that Durga Devi is all in all, so they approach like that. In our Gaudiya Sampradaya, there was an Acharya, his name was Govindas Thakur. So he previously was a devotee of Durga Devi. And his elder brother was a Vaishnava, devotee of Krishna, ardent devotee of Krishna. And he used to tell him that Durga Devi is a maid servant of Krishna. So if you really want to please Durga Devi, you worship Krishna. But he was so set in his ways that he would not listen. And this is the proclivity and inclination of the living entity. The modes of nature determine whatever deity the living entity is attracted to. So it is very nicely explained by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita that whatever mode one is situated in predominantly, they are naturally attracted to that particular deity of those modes. So those who are always one facilities, they are naturally inclined to worship some demigods like Indra or Goddess Durga, so that they can have better facility for enjoyment. Bhagavad Gita nonetheless states that they do their pious activity, they try to be in good books of these personalities, but shine punya martya lokam vishanti. As soon as the piety expires, they have to again come back to the material world, because these demigods cannot provide liberation. Durga Devi at most can give facility in the material world, but she cannot take a person out of the material world. So the Trishul of Durga Devi represents the three modes from which she is tormenting the living entities to punish the living entity. So that the living, why in the prison the punishment is there?
For reformation.
For reformation. So that the prisoners understand that if I do something wrong, then after getting out, if I do that same mistake again, I have to come back again into the prison. So the Trishul represents mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. And the three miseries Durga Devi inflicts upon these living entities, and the living entities are tormented by that. And so they plead to Durga Devi, please, provide me facility so that I can be comfortable in this world. But Srila Prabhupada mentions in many places that's not very intelligent, because if you are in a prison, rather than asking for facility from the superintendent of the prison, it is better to ask the superintendent of the prison to get me out of here. Being out of prison is better to get facility in the prison. So people don't know this, therefore they are regarded as mudha, foolish. So Govindas Thakur was such. One day when his brother was passing, elder brother was passing from their house, they had a lake nearby. And in the lake, Govindas Thakur saw that there was a nice lotus flower. His elder brother saw that there was a nice lotus flower. So he was elderly, so he could not go in the lake. But through his mind, he plucked that lotus flower, and through his mind, he offered the lotus flower to the lotus feet of Krishna. It is said, Prabhupada mentioned, that in Kali Yuga, all the opulence is lost except the flowers. The opulence of flowers still remain and can be offered to the Lord, and is very pleasing to the Lord. Different kinds of flowers are mentioned in Srīmad Bhāgavatam. And along with the flowers, the most dearmost leaf that we can offer to Krishna is tulasi. So even in Vaikuntha planets, there are many, many flowers adorned in the garlands of the Lord, but all the flowers who are cognizant, who are alive in spiritual world, everything is alive, they give the highest respect and regard to Tulsi Devi, because they know that Tulsi Devi has performed the most austerities. So in his mind he offered that flower to Krishna. And then after he did that, after some time, Govindas Thakur was passing from the same route and he saw the flower again. And in his mind he thought, oh, this is such a nice flower. I should pluck it and offer it to my worshipable goddess Durga. So he went into the lake and he plucked the flower and he went to worship it to Durga Devi. But as soon as he went in front of Durga Devi manifested and got hold of his hand and took the flower from his hand, and she took the flower from the hand and touched it on her head. And then she said to Govindas Thakur, I'm very pleased with you because today you have brought the prasad of my worshipable Lord Krishna. This flower already has been offered to Krishna by your elder brother. And so this flower does not belong on my feet, it belongs on my head. So, even in Aarti time when flowers are offered and we take the offering of flowers as prasadam, and when it's distributed, we touch it on our head and we smell the flower as prasad of the Lord. So Durga Devi said, I'm very pleased with you. Please ask whatever benediction you want. Then Govindas Thakur's eyes opened and he said, please give me unalloyed devotion to your worshipable Lord, the personality you worship. And Durga Devi became very pleased when Govindas Thakur asked, because Durga Devi becomes pleased when someone is released from the prison. And she facilitates that also. But one has to have desire to get out of the prison phase. There was a pastime with Srila Prabhupada. One disciple he never asked any questions, never had an opportunity. He was quite shy, but he thought disciple means asking questions to the spiritual master. If in my lifetime I don't ask even one question, then my life is a waste. So Prabhupada used to go for morning walks, and there all the disciples used to walk along with him, and Srila Prabhupada used to speak, and the disciples used to ask questions. But this disciple never got an opportunity to ask questions. And the morning walk was about to end, and Srila Prabhupada was about to enter into the car. And as he was about to enter into the car, his one foot was in the car, one foot outside. The door of the car, of course, is open. Srila Prabhupada was neither inside the car nor outside, and he was bending to go into the car. And this devotee pushed everyone out and rushed through and said, Srila Prabhupada, I want to ask a question. Srila Prabhupada said, yes. So he said, how can I become Krishna conscious? And Srila Prabhupada is in the middle, not in the car, not outside. He's about to get in such an open-ended question. Srila Prabhupada answered the question in one word. And he said, desire. Simply by desiring to get out of the material world, one can get out. Simply by desiring to become Krishna conscious, one can become Krishna conscious. This is very, very important. So Govindas Thakur desired to become Krishna conscious, and he got it. So similarly, if genuine desire is there, because the reason for our existence here in this material world is what? Desire. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Ichha dvesha samaptena. We desire to enjoy separately from Krishna, and dvesha means envy comes. Because there is competition with Krishna and competition with other living entities. Dvandva mohena bharata. And as soon as we have material desires, everything becomes convoluted. There is dvanda. Dvanda means there is happiness, misery. But more so often there is misery. Misery in material world is described by Bhaktivinoda Thakur as only that moment where some relief is there. happiness. Sorry, happiness is described as that moment when some relief is there from misery. He says, Micha Maya Bheshe, Jacho Bheshe, Kacho Habudu Bhai. So Micha Maya Bheshe. So illusory energy of the Lord. It gives us hope. Yes, I can be happy. In material world, everything is working due to this one aspect, Asha Pasha. Asha means hope. Yes, I will be one day happy. One day, in Australian context, I'll pay off my mortgage. One day, I'll be satisfied. All this, the hope, Asha Pasha, Shata. It is said, hundreds and thousands of hopes like this we have living entities has. Deha Moha Avirata. And it gives us so much anxiety. And we are trying to running after fulfilling those desires. But when we fulfill those desires, guess what? We still are unsatisfied. Deha Moha Avirata. Pravritti Holi Kela. But still, the proclivity to keep on going does not stop. It is exactly like the carrot put in front of donkey. That's how we all are actually. Because in hope we keep going on without questioning. When we come in contact with devotees of the Lord, then the devotees actually, they divert our desire towards Krishna consciousness. We are studying the Charitra of Amrish Maharaj, and one of the verses which describes the Amrish Maharaj's activities is that Amrish Maharaj desired to save the Lord and not his own senses. He desired to be the servant of the Lord, and that's how all his senses were under his control. This evening we're starting the verses from Srīmad Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter, from 54, where Arjuna asks the question of sthita pragnasya, of a person who is of steady intelligence, steady mind. Basically, one who is fixed in Krishna consciousness is called sthita prajna. He does not deviate from his path of devotional service. What are the symptoms of such a person? So His Grace Sakira Prabhu will be starting that session off, and we'll be continuing that for a few weeks. These senses are not cooperating because we are under the spell of illusion. We don't know what is right, what is wrong. In the Prasadam song we sing, Sarira Vidya Jal. This body is a place of ignorance, avidya, jal. It's a network where we don't know any better. And Srīmad Bhāgavatam, again, various pastimes there tell us this. This pastime of Puranjana, and why this pastime is so nice, because it explains how the body is and how the living entity is entrapped in the body, and how the living entity goes on and on and on. The Bhagavatam in the 4th canto tells about the pastimes of Puranjana. So Puranjana was a very young valiant king, and he had a friend, and his friend's name was Abhignata. So no one could understand who Abhignata is and what's the activities of Abhignata. Where was Abhignata coming from? Where was Abhignata going? But he was always with Puranjana. One day Puranjana climbed a mountain, and from the northern tip of the mountain, he saw there was a very wonderful city of 9 gates. The city had many, many palaces, many, many rivers, many, many gardens, many waterfalls, and was so captivating. Puranjana went down the mountain to enter the city of the 9 gates. And as he was wondering and appreciating, he had ankle bells of a maiden. And he followed the sound. And to his astonishment, he saw that an entourage behind a young beautiful maiden coming. And that entourage was headed by a 5-hooded serpent. And behind the 5-hooded serpent, there were 11 main servants. And behind the 11 main servants, there were hundreds and hundreds of other servants. Puranjana became very captivated by this young maiden, and he approached her and he said, "Oh my lady, who are you? Where are you coming from? Who is this 500 serpent? Who are these servants following you?" The young maiden replied, "I don't know who I am, I don't know where I'm coming from, and to be honest, I don't even care. All I know that these senses are there, mind is there, this nice place of enjoyment is there, the city is beautiful, and this is to be enjoyed and had a good time." So Puranjana said that I am also attracted to you, O young maiden. Let's get into an arrangement of matrimony and live together happily ever after. And because she was also attracted to Puranjana, they got married and they started living together. In due course of time, they had many, many children. And the kingdom was flourishing. But far away, in a land unknown to Puranjana, they and 3 So King Malyadvaja went into the forest, and because Puranjani, Vaidarvi, her name was, that she was very chaste, she went with King Malyadvaja. But then she noticed one day that the king is no longer breathing, and she realized that he has already left. His consciousness merged in Supreme, and she started crying there and there, that now I'm feeling insecure. And this is the fear we have, that in old age and death we'll be all alone. Who will look after us? So she was thinking, I'm all alone in this forest, and my husband was always with me, but now I'm without his protection. And she was crying incessantly. And then a young Brahmana boy came, and he started asking her that, why are you crying? Who are you? And whose body is this? So she explained, this is my husband, King Malyadvaja, and he is no more. And I always felt being protected under his shelter. And now I'm all alone, and I'm fearful. So then the young Brahmana replied that actually I am with you always. You don't know. Life after life, I have been with you. And the young Brahmana boy was Vijnata, one who had always accompanied Puranjana. So when this story is being told by Narad Muni to King Prachinabarhi, then King Prachinabarhi, he asked Narad Muni, who are all these characters? Who is Puranjana? Who is Vijnata? Who is the five-hooded serpent? Who are the 10 servants? Who are the hundreds of servants after 10 servants? Who is Chandavega? Who is Jara? Who is Prajvara? Who is Kalkanya? All these characters in this story. So Narad Muni then explains, Puranjana actually is, Puranjana means, Puran means old, Jana means living entity. So Puranjana is all of us who have been ever existing, eternal living entity, the soul. And Avijnata is Supreme Lord Krishna, who in form of Paramatma is always accompanying us. But he remains unknown to us because we never look to him. We always are steadying our external senses. City of 9 gates is this material body. The 9 gates, 2 eyes, nostrils, mouth on the east side, then on the northern and west side, 1 ear each, and then organs of reproduction and organs of evacuation on the south side. The maiden, young maiden, is described as the unbridled intelligence. Unbridled intelligence means that intelligence which does not know better. Because when Puranjana asks the young maiden, who are you? What are you doing here? Where are you coming from? She said, I don't have an idea, I don't want to know, and I don't care to know. I only know that this world is there, the city of 9 gates is there, and I only need to enjoy. That's all. And the 5-hooded serpent are the 5 kands of air which regulates the body. The pran, apan, vayan, saman, udan. I think those are the ones. When those air are out of sync, then the body becomes a perfect place for disease. But how long can the 5-hooded serpent protect the city of 9 gates? At most for 100 years. Because the 5-hooded serpent is constantly fighting with the forces of Chandavega. Chandavega is described as inevitable time. Vega means force, whose force is very prachanda. Prachanda means it's inevitable. Time will overcome everything. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mrityus sarvam paraschaham. He says, Kalosmi, I am the time, the all-devouring aspect of time. It attacks. The 720 soldiers of Chandavega, 360 represent 360 days in a year, and another 360 represent 369. So unknown to us, the time factor is attacking this body. But we go on as if we live forever, like Puranjana was doing. But how long can we live on? Ultimately, we'll succumb to death. And the 10 main sevens, they represent 5 of them, 5 knowledge acquiring senses, 5 working senses, and the 11th, the mind. And according to the dictation of the 5 working senses and the 5 knowledge acquiring senses and the mind, we do everything. Without thinking that there is intelligence beyond that. But if that intelligence is unbridled intelligence, doesn't know any better, then what can it do? That intelligence just degrades us. So Srīmad Bhāgavatam says here, this material body, this whole subject matter is of material body. Dehendriya prana mano dhiyamyo. So these elements are mentioned. Deha. Deha means body. Indriya, senses. Dehendriya. Prana, life air. Mano, dhya, intelligence. So these 5 elements are described. Deha, Indriya, Prana, Mano, Dhya. Please repeat. Dehendriya, Prana, Mano, Dhyamyo, Janmapyaya, Shuddhayatarshakrichrayi. So Deha, the ultimate thing is that Deha is Janmapya. Janmapya means it is born, and Apya means it will die. And Indriya, Krichrahi, means it is always exerted. The efforts of Indriya are indulged, and therefore over time it becomes weak. Prana is subjugated to Shuddh. Shuddh means hunger and thirst. Now, Ekadashi, when we're fasting, we feel like, oh, I leave the body now. Isn't it, Neil? On Ekadashi, we feel like eating everything. And mind is subjugated to Bhaya. And intelligence is subjugated to insanity. Insanity. Atmanam Prabhu, my former temple president in Sydney, used to say, everyone is insane. I was thinking, talk about yourself, I'm okay. We said, everyone is insane, just the degree of insanity varies. But everyone is insane. Why? Because we have taken the material body to be ourselves, and we are doing everything as if we are the body, and we are doing everything as if we live forever. That is insanity. Janya Dehendriya Prana Mano Dhyamyo Janyapyaya Shuddh Bhayatarshakrichrayi. samsara dharme avimuyamana. So this is called samsara dharma. This will happen. The body is subjugated to birth and death. The senses are exerted and becoming weak. The prana is harassed by hunger and thirst. And the mind is subjugated to fear always. And the intelligence is working without knowing better, is deluded and it's insane. This is samsara dharma, nature of the material world. However, avimuyamana, one who is not bewildered by this, yes, this will happen to the body. When Srila Prabhupada was on deathbed, all the disciples were crying. Srila Prabhupada said, what did I teach you? You are not the body. All this one day will happen to you as well. So when our body is coming under the attack of time and it is deteriorating, we can get out from the bodily conscious by elevating our consciousness through devotional service to Krishna consciousness. And such a person is called a vimudhamana, who is not bewildered by such a change. And how does he do all this? Smritya Hare Bhāgavata Pradhana. By remembrance of Hari, Smritya Hare Bhāgavata Pradhana. When we remember Krishna, when we remember Hari, then that upliftment of consciousness transcends, Prabhupada says, the sensual plane, the mental plane, the intellectual plane, and gets us directly to the spiritual plane. So, the material senses are there, the body is there. Best use of bad bargain is to use everything in the service of Krishna. Jiban hoila shesa na bhajibe rishikesha. Otherwise, whatever life is remaining, jiban hoila shesha. Whatever happened up to now, okay, happened. We put down the loss. But shesha means whatever is remaining of our life from now onwards. Na bhajibe rishikesha. If we don't use that to worship master of senses, Rishikesha, then our life is useless. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Bhakti Vinoda Upadesha ek bar nama rase matore. Just one time chant the holy names of the Lord. Because if we properly chant one time, we will chant again and again. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Any questions or comments?
Robert, when His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj did the whole program with Sankarshan Prabhu, a brilliant point was made by Sankarshan Prabhu. He said, the more we become Krishna conscious, the more we get out of this bodily concept, and the less trouble old age and disease give us. So, the correlation is there, inversely proportional, but it's very, it's like, most people don't really understand this. Even devotees, they don't understand this, because there's so much in the bodily consciousness. But the more we transcend and the more we take shelter of Krishna, the more we do devotional service, the less we become bodily conscious. And that's why we see Prabhupada and all the gurus.
Yes.
So, whatever the age, whatever the physical condition, they're just going on and on and on. So you can see that the more we become Krishna conscious, the less we are troubled by these miseries.
It's a very nice point. And I've seen my Guru Maharaj in his old age, how his consciousness was. Although the body is seemingly going through those experiences, but he's aloof from those experiences because he's devotion is uplifting the consciousness.
Prabhu, I was just going to add, Sankarshan Prabhu again in one of the classes said, which was quite similar to what my said in the Bhāgavatam class as well. He said there was one Srila Prabhupada disciple who used to come for Bhāgavatam classes all the time. So when he was young, he was very energetic and he was very enthusiastic about everything. When he grew older, he was about 92, 93 years old. He was brought on a palanquin by a couple of his servants, and he was made to sit there. And he came and he commented, and he folded his hands and he said to everyone, all the Vaishnavas, please bless me so I can become Krishna conscious. And then when Sankarshan Prabhu was doing a program over here, he did exactly the same thing. He was sitting there, his voice sometimes stammers and he forgets things sometimes, but he folded his hands together and he just bowed down to all the Vaishnavas. So please make me Krishna conscious so I can go back to Srila Prabhupada. And my Guru Maharaj then said that to become Krishna conscious, it starts with little sacrifices in your life. Start with one little sacrifice, Krishna notices that. Then make it a slightly bigger sacrifice. Then make it slightly bigger sacrifice. Eventually, you won't feel you're making any sacrifices. And that's how we become Krishna conscious. But it starts with little sacrifice.
Yes. Because we are in illusion, we think living a material way of life is right, so to us is sacrifice. But Krishna consciousness is the natural condition of a living entity. Prabhupada says in many places. So when our whole life is dedicated, then we feel this is natural, no sacrifices involved there. That's true. So the offering is happening. So any comments? Or the offering is happening. Should we recite Shukdev Goswami prayers? We have time. Yeah? So you can open Srīmad Bhāgavatam, 4th chapter, text number 12 or 11, I think.
Oh,
13. 12, sorry. So 4th chapter, 12th verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Everyone got it? 2, 4, 12. From 2, 4, 12. You can stay back, we'll be having prasadam in 5 minutes. Yeah? Sit. Shri Shukavacha Nama Parasmai Purushaya Bhuyase Sadudbhavasthana Nirodha Leelaya Grihita Shakti Tritayaya Devinam Antarbhavaya Nupalakshya Vartmane Bhuyo Namasad Vijina Chide Satam Asambhavaya Khila Sattva Murtaye Pumsam Punah Paramahamsya Ashrame Vyavasthitanam Manumrigya Dashuse Namo Namo नमस्तेस्तु ऋषभाय सात्वतां विदूरकाष्ठाय मुहुकुयोगिनां निरस्तसाम्यातिशयेन राधसा स्वधाम्नि ब्रह्मनिरंस्यते नमः यत्कीर्तनं यत्स्मरणं यदीक्षणं यद्वन्दनं यत्श्रवणं यदर्हणं लोकस्य सत्यो विदुनोति कल्मषम् तस्मै सुभद्राश्रवसे नमो नमः विचक्षणाय चरणोपसाधना संगं युदस्यो भयतोऽन्तरात्मनः विन्दन्ति ब्रह्मगतिं गतक्लमान् तस्मै सुभद्राश्रवसे नमो नमः तपस्विनो दानपरायशस्विनो मनस्विनो मन्त्रविदासु मङ्गलः क्षेमं न विन्दन्ति विनाय दर्पणम् तस्मै सुभद्राश्रवसे नमो नमः किराटहूनान्द्रपुलिन्दपुल्कषा आभीर्शुम्भायवनाकसादयः ये च पापा यदपाश्रयाश्रया शुध्यन्ति तस्मै प्रभविष्णवे नमः स एषात्मात्मवतां मधीश्वरः त्रयीमयो धर्ममयस्तपोमयः गताव्यलीकैरजशङ्करादिभिः वितर्गलिङ्गो भगवान् प्रसीदताम् श्रियपतिर्याज्ञपते प्रजापतिर्यां पतिर्लोकपतिर्धरापतिः पतिर्गतिश्चान्धकवृष्णिसात्वताम् प्रसीदतां मे भगवान् सतां पतिः यदाङ्घ्रिविद्यानसमाधिधौतया धियानुपश्यन्ति हि तत्त्वमात्मनः वदन्ति चैतत् कवयो यथा समे मुकुन्दो भगवान् प्रसीदताम् प्रचोदितायेन पुरा सरस्वती satim smitim hidi Svalakshana pradurbhut khilasyata Same rishinam vrishabha prasidatam Bhute mahadbhe yayima puro vibhur Nirmayashete yadamushu purushaha Bhunte gunansho dashasho dashatmakam Solam trisishta bhagavan vachansi me Namastasmai bhagavate Vasudevaya vedase Prabhurjnanam mayam samya Yanmukham buruhasavam Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Grantha Srīmad Bhāgavatam ki Jai Prabhupada ki Jai Jai Gaur Premanande.
I want to make a point. When we're reciting the verses, those who are particular in making life perfect, the pronunciation, if you have the Sanskrit with us together, then Ana and Ana, you can work out with more comfortability. Devana will leave it. Otherwise, if you're just reading English, then if there's a dot below Na and then it's Ana. And then if there's no dot below, then it's Na. So I will give you an example. If you go on verse 18, 2-4-18. So first word is Kirata, and the second word is Hunandra. It's not Hunandra. It's Hunandra. So Hunam is a type of jati. So Kirat, Hunandra, Pulinga, Purusha, these are all the different types of jatis. So if you see Yavana, there is no dot under the end, so it's Yavana, right? But then if you also see, let me see one more. The previous was Kshemam Navindanti Yudhina Yat Arpanam. It's Arpanam, not Arpanam. So if there is a dot below N, then it's Hana. If there is no dot below N, so same as S. So if there is a dot below S, it's Shah, and if there is no dot below S, it's Sir. So this way we can, if we know the Devana lyric, it's easy to pronounce. But if not, then if you just read in English, then this way it is there. Of course, at the end of every book, Prabhupada has given the entire way to pronounce. So if anyone is interested, you can go through the entire thing and then we can start pronouncing properly. I thought just a little point to
Yeah.
make it a little better.
When we try to pronounce properly, then the recitation becomes more pleasing as well.
Yes, Viraja Krsna Prabhu ki.
Srila Prabhupada ki